Welcome in for another edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Lots to cover today. Joe Biden is at it again. The president falsely claimed earlier this week that he was the first person in his family to go to college, continuing a decades-long habit of making false or embellished claims about his life. We have the latest in today's episode. Minneapolis residents are urging the city to shut down a neighborhood homeless encampment after an explosion and stabbing and other crime in the area. This is a city who has welcomed with open arms illegals. Also, the Democrat-run city of Denver, Colorado, plans to defund its police department to pay for illegal immigrants in their city. And the NFL community reacts to OJ Simpson, 76 years old, as we learned yesterday that he had died from his battle with cancer. A 7-year-old's lemonade stand touches an entire community. You're going to want to stick around to hear this story. And, of course, your comments on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Firmin Ford text line. Voice messages are welcome, as are your emails, joey@joeyhudson.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
You would think by now that Joe Biden would learn that he's on a national, or actually an international stage, and you can't just claim things that never happened. Joe Biden falsely claimed again earlier this week that he was the first person in his family to go to college, continuing this decades-long habit of embellishing and just making stuff up. Biden has been scrutinized several times over the years for literally fabricating tales, including a claim that he was arrested in apartheid-era South Africa, was in a helicopter forced down by al-Qaeda insurgents in Afghanistan, and even trivial events involving an Amtrak conductor who died before Biden's alleged story took place. Remember that one? Well, Biden continued the trend on Monday while speaking in the battleground state of Wisconsin as he outlined his plan to provide, quote, life-changing relief for student loan debt. He said, I, like an awful lot of people in this audience, was the first in my family to go to college. However, less than 2 years ago, during a speech in Pennsylvania, Biden told an audience that his grandfather played college football. So which is it, Joe? He said, my grandfather, Finnegan from Scranton, would really be proud of me right now. This was in Pittsburgh in October 2022. He said, no, I'm not joking. He would. By the way, he was an All-American football player in Santa Clara. So Joe Biden wants us to think that he's the first to graduate college, but his dad was a standout All-American at his college. When asked about Biden's recent comments and his embellishments throughout the years, then this just gets better. The White House Deputy Press Secretary, Andrew Bates, said that President Biden is proud to have restored honesty, integrity, and respect for the rule of law to the Oval Office. That was his response, that Joe Biden is proud to have restored honesty and integrity to the Oval Office. I think I would have come up with something a little bit different, a little better response than that. He added that Biden is also proud to be the first Biden to graduate college. So he's kind of reinforcing Biden's story there. Biden's exaggerations regarding college also extend to a previous claim that he taught political theory at the University of Pennsylvania, which he mentioned in Maryland of September of 2023. He said, democracy is at stake, folks. Our democracy is under attack, and we got to fight for it. And he went on to say that he had taught at the University of Pennsylvania. Here's Joe Biden.
You make me miss being a professor at Penn. When I left the vice presidency, I had a chance to do a number of things, but I took a professorship at the University of Pennsylvania on presidential politics and history. So I envy you.
Well, isn't it exciting to be part of this sweep?
Oh, no, it is.
history?
It is. But it's also, I really enjoyed teaching and writing.
If this wasn't the leader of the free world, the president of the United States, it would be comical. I mean, there's little evidence, or actually no evidence, that Biden ever taught political theory at the University of Pennsylvania. While the university's website notes that the president was the Benjamin Franklin Presidential Professor of Practice from 2017 to 2021, I mean, he got this lucrative job leaving the vice presidency. A Snopes.com fact check on his previous but similar claim that he was a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania for 4 years found that he did not teach a semester's worth of courses while in his role. Snopes.com said that the role was honorary and that he gave lectures and talks to students on campus but did not teach a full semester's course during that time. The RNC research at the time posted on X, Biden says he really enjoyed teaching when he was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Biden was paid $1 million but never taught a single class. Years before Biden first ran for president in 1987, he exaggerated his academic record by bragging that he graduated in the top half of his class while berating a reporter on the campaign trail. Here's how that exchange went. He said, "I think I have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect," Biden told the reporter. This was in New Hampshire at the time. He said, "I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship." He went on to say, "In the first year of law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom 2/3 of my class. And then I decided to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class." When confronted, Biden later admitted he graduated 76 in a class of 85. He told the New York Times, "I did not graduate in the top half of my class at law school, and my recollection of this was inaccurate." Of course it was inaccurate. He said, "I graduated from University of Delaware with a double major in history and political science. My reference to degrees at the Claremont event was intended to refer to these majors. I said 3 and should have said 2. This is when he had also exaggerated the degrees that he actually had received while attending school. The media pointed out that Biden received a single bachelor's degree in history and political science. In another instance, Biden delivered the commencement address at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. At the very beginning of his remarks, he told the graduating class a story about his own life and his personal tie to this very prestigious institution.
Before I began my speech, a thought crossed my mind as I was told the class of 72 is here. I was appointed to the Academy in 1965 by a senator who I was running against in 1972. Never planned it that way. I wasn't old enough to be sworn in. I was only 29 years old when I was running. He was a fine man. His name was J. Caleb Boggs. I didn't come to the Academy because I wanted to be a football star, and you had a guy named Staubach and Bellino here. So I went to Delaware. But all kidding aside, the best line of the debate was, after it was all over, the announcer, the questioner, who was a good guy but supported my opponent, who was a good man as well, I might add. And he said, "Senator Boggs, you have anything else you want to say?" And he said, "Yes, just one thing." And he took the microphone. He said, "You know, Joe, if you accepted my commission to my appointment to the Academy," he said, "you'd still have 1 year and 3 months active duty and I'd have no problems right now." So the class of 72, welcome. You guys must be very proud of all you've seen and done.
And once again, absolutely no evidence to support this. In a townhall.com article, President Biden told graduating midshipmen at the Naval Academy that he applied to the school in 1965. But a quick check of his biography shows that there are some problems with that story. Biden said he applied to Annapolis with a letter from then Delaware Senator J. Caleb Boggs, but the year he cited, 1965, is the same year he graduated from the University of Delaware. The Academy doesn't offer graduate degrees, so it's unclear if Biden has told the story before, but it surprised political journalists who have covered his many campaigns and his presidency. Biden's 2008 autobiography, Promises to Keep, does not mention the Naval Academy at all. The U.S. military was heavily involved in Vietnam in the mid-1960s, and had Biden had attended the academy, he would have had to have served in the Navy upon graduation. Biden received 5 student draft deferments during his 4 years at the University of Delaware, and subsequently 3 years at Syracuse University's College of Law. After Biden graduated law school in 1968, he reportedly was deemed unfit for military service, citing his childhood asthma. His memoir doesn't mention the condition while describing his football exploits or his work as a lifeguard. A report released at one point during Biden's tenure said by his doctor never mentioned that he had asthma. Since then, Biden has told numerous stories. We've heard many of them, and he's also been deemed. He calls them exaggerations. I call them lies. Mainstream outlets, including the Washington Post, have even called him out on them, including the publication's top fact checker, Glenn Kessler. In September of last year, Kessler wrote an article about how Biden loves to retell certain stories and how some lack credibility. His report assembled several Biden's accounts, including one about an Amtrak conductor that he claimed held him for having traveled for more than 2 million miles on the railroad, exceeding the 1.2 million miles traveled on Air Force planes as vice president as of 2016. However, the conductor that he talked about retired in 1993 and died 2 years before Joe Biden reached that milestone in the air. So it couldn't have happened. Other stories that Kessler addressed include Biden's claim that he and his father saw 2 men in suits kissing each other in public when he was a teenager, that he was arrested for trying to see Nelson Mandela in South Africa, and as vice president, he arranged for his uncle to be presented a Purple Heart that he was owed and never received. The uncle died in 1999, long before Joe Biden was vice president. The story of Nelson Mandela, though, that is a classic. Here's Joe Biden being called out on the Mandela story.
I came back from South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela and getting arrested for trying to see him on Robben Island. He was in prison.
I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robben Island.
Your campaign has come out since and said, no. You were separated from other people at the airport, but you did say arrest 3 times. Why?
I said arrested. I meant I was not able to move. Cops, Afrikaners would not let me go with them, made me stay where I was. I guess I wasn't arrested. I was stopped.
And again, there's story after story. PolitiFact, a liberal fact-checking website, actually has rated some of Biden's stories as pants on fire and said that many of his statements set eyes rolling. They're strange and insensitive, they said. Biden has also repeated the false claim about his house burning down. You've heard this one before in his attempt to relate to those who lost their homes in the wildfires in Maui, Hawaii. He said, I don't want to compare the difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, of what it was like to lose a home. 15 years ago, he said, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. Lightning struck our home at a little lake outside of the home. It hit the wire, came up underneath our home and into the air conditioning ducts, he said. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. Now, a 2000 report from the Associated Press said that lightning did strike the Biden's home and started a small fire that was contained in the kitchen. The report said that firefighters got the blaze under control within 20 minutes, and they were able to keep the flames from spreading beyond the kitchen. The Washington Post has looked into a number of these claims, labeling them ridiculous, and again awarding Biden 4 Pinocchios for literally lying. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Is there ever a point that the mainstream media is just going to call Biden out on this? Or do we just sit back and let him keep making these stories up? Love to get your comments on the Firmin Ford text line. The family of Hall of Fame running back OJ Simpson announced yesterday that the former Buffalo Bills star had died after battling prostate cancer, prompting reactions from around the NFL community. OJ Simpson was 76 years old. His stellar NFL career, of course, was overshadowed by the trial and eventual acquittal in the 1994 killings of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ronald Goldman. Passed away on Wednesday, his family said, confirmed in a statement posted on X. They said, on April 10th, our father, Orenthal James Simpson, succumbed to his battle with cancer. He was surrounded by his children and grandchildren. The family asked for privacy and grace during this time of transition. Election integrity is a top-of-mind issue for voters in 2024. You combine this with the huge influx of illegals pouring into our country at the southern border, and it makes it even more important for us to protect the integrity of our elections. South Carolina Senate passed this past week the Citizens-Only Voting Amendment. Is known as COVA, and a 40-3 vote is a bipartisan vote. This would prevent non-citizens from voting in South Carolina. Had a chance to catch up with South Carolina Senator Josh Kimbrell on the Mike Gallagher show earlier this week as I was guest hosting. We're going to have that up for you in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about PhD weight loss and nutrition. If you're kind of on the fence, if you're not quite sure if you want to do PhD weight loss and nutrition, let me encourage you to just call them today. Set up your appointment, 864-252-4925. At least sit down with one of the professionals at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition and talk with them about this life-changing program. If you want to lose weight, for the last time I might add, if you want to get healthy, then PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition can help you accomplish all of that. You've heard me tell my story. Many of you have shared my journey with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Almost 4 years ago, I was introduced to Dr. Ashley Lucas. I lost 30 pounds very quickly, within a few months, and I've been able to maintain that weight for almost 4 years later. And I've been able to maintain it because PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition is not a fad diet. It's not even a diet at all, really. It's all about nutrition. It's based on the science of nutrition. Dr. Lucas came up with this program. She teaches you about your relationship with food, what to eat, how to eat, when to eat. And those are all important things. You lose the weight, but more importantly, because of the skills that Dr. Lucas and her team give you, you're able to maintain that weight. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Again, call today, and as we go into the summer, you too can be talking about losing 10, 20, 30 pounds. 864-252-4925. Go ahead and get it on your calendar today. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com, myphdweightloss.com, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. Senator Josh Kimbrell is leading the effort to pass Senate Bill 1126. It's now headed to the South Carolina House of Representatives, and this would make certain that non-citizens cannot vote in South Carolina. A lot of people think, well, non-citizens shouldn't be allowed to vote anyway. But that's happening in a lot of progressive cities around the country. In our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., in local elections, non-citizens are allowed to vote. I had a chance to catch up with Senator Kimbrell as I was guest hosting for Mike Gallagher this week on the Mike Gallagher Show. Here's my conversation with Senator Josh Kimbrell. On our guest line today, South Carolina State Senator Josh Kimbrell, a good friend. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Good to be with you. It seems like our election friends don't want us on the air together today. I don't know if that's sucker bucks or what, but thank God we got connected here on Skype.
The gremlins are moving around for sure today, Senator. They do not want us connecting. Let's talk for a minute. I kind of introed what we're going to talk about today. You guys, and you led the efforts on some important legislation. 40-3. When does the South Carolina Senate ever agree on something 40-3? I'd love to hear from the three who voted against it. Why?
Well, it's kind of amazing. You know, I sponsored this bill, Senate Bill 1126, to put this referendum on the ballot to prohibit any city or municipality or school board or anybody in our state from allowing non-citizens to vote like we've seen in California, New York, Washington, D.C., Illinois, Vermont. People say this isn't happening. It's happening all over the country, and there's some folks that want to do it here. I thought it would pass mostly along a partisan line vote. You have to have 2/3 of the Senate, 2/3 of the House. We had exactly 2/3 of the Senate's Republican. We have 30. You needed 31 votes. We had 30 Republicans. I got one Democrat to co-sponsor the bill. I thought, okay, I've got 31 votes as long as I don't lose a Republican. And then we picked up 9 Democrats and got 40-3. It's over to the House. I've spoken to the Speaker of the House here, and he's certainly supportive, and the governor's supportive. I'm confident the House will pass this measure. The governor will sign it. It'll be on the ballot in November here, and I expect it to pass. We're going to put an end to that in South Carolina. This is insane that in any state in the country, any city in the country, we would allow somebody who not only is not a citizen, but in some cases illegally in the country to begin with, to vote in any election. And this is just common sense in my view.
Yeah. The Americans for Citizen Voting said about that effort, this is a tremendous victory for the citizens of South Carolina. The South Carolina Senate came together, regardless of party, for the benefit of all citizens. So let's back up just a minute. On our guest line, Senator Josh Kimbrell he represents Spartanburg County in the South Carolina State Senate, my home state, and my home county. I live in Spartanburg County. Senator, on the surface...
Having you as a resident, that's good.
Yes. On the surface, Senator, non-citizen voting seems to just be far out there. I mean, you can't imagine why a non-citizen would be allowed to vote anyway. But as you mentioned, there are cities all around the country who do allow it. Our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., allows that. Why is that? Why do you think anyone would want a non-citizen to vote in their local elections?
Well, think about it, Joey. And the Speaker of the House, Michael Johnson, said this just the other day, and I think he's right. And some people used to say this was a conspiracy theory. I don't think it is anymore. Look at even the 2020 census, when President Trump tried to make the census only count citizens when it came to congressional reapportionment. The Democrats went bananas over that and said you can't do that. They want people ask all the time, why do we have an open border? Well, we have an open border because there's an effort to flood states like Texas, like California, other places with illegal immigrants in blue districts. Because even if they can't vote, they can still be counted in apportionment. So places like California, New York are hemorrhaging voters. I mean, people are fleeing with their feet to go to conservative places where they can still live in freedom, and they're losing congressional seats. California, for the first time in the history of that state being in the United States, has lost representation in the Congress versus gaining some. But if you flood 10 million illegal immigrants, then you pick up 2 or 3 seats. And so those are going to likely be blue seats. You've got an effort not only with the illegal immigration or the census, but certainly even with allowing non-citizens to vote in municipal and county elections, to push things in a more liberal direction when the American people are saying no. I mean, President Biden right now is probably about as popular as COVID. His chances of re-election are slimming by the day. But if you can have cities and municipalities like Chicago, like New York, that people are fed up, if you can get illegal immigrants or people who are not even citizens to vote in those elections, those votes are going to, the calculus, I think, by the left is that these folks are going to vote Democratic, and that bolsters their electoral prospects, even when the American people are really fed up. And so even in our state, there's been, I've had people come, I've got a Democratic opponent in November. I'm the Republican nominee for re-election. I feel very comfortable about the race, but I have a Democrat. There's people out there running openly saying we should allow people who are even illegally in the country, if their kids happen to be enrolled in school, to go vote in a school board race, which has power of taxation. I mean, you shouldn't have a non-citizen, regardless if their kids go to school or not, voting in a school board election. So even here, there's an effort by some people to push that. And we've got to put the brakes on that really fast and slam the door to that possibility.
Yeah, and in recent years, just looking over things here, other states have passed what is known as COVA. Now, I'm not sure I like that name. It sounds too much like COVID to me, but Alabama, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana, Ohio, and North Dakota have passed similar type bills. Other efforts are underway in Georgia, Kansas, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, many other states. Let's talk for a minute. What do you think the chances are that our state house, that Speaker Merle Smith and the majority leader Davey Hyatt will put this at the top of the list so we can get it through, get it signed, and then is the next step for the people to vote on it?
Yes. Well, so I have a great relationship with the Speaker, and I don't want to speak for him, but I mean, in our conversations, he's very supportive of the bill. I'm confident it's going to get to the top of the House calendar. I think they're going to pass it before adjournment, which would be next month. and the governor is willing to sign it. So I believe it'll pass the legislature. I think the resolution will be sent to voters. And Joey, once that happens, it'll be on the November ballots. When you go vote for president, it's going to be one of the questions you're asked as a ballot referendum. And I think it's going to pass here overwhelmingly. I mean, South Carolinians are not okay with the idea of being a sanctuary state or being a state where people are able to get driver's licenses, if you're illegal for that matter, much less voting. So in Colorado, not exactly a red state, not a red bastion, Colorado, when this was on the ballot, passed it by 75% of the vote. We have to have a 2/3 majority in the House. We have that. I'm confident it passes. You got to have over 61% of the vote by the general public. I would not be surprised you get closer to 70-75% here. So it's going to pass. I'm confident of that. And I think it's going to aid Republican turnout come November.
Yeah. Senator Josh Kimbrell from my home state of South Carolina. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate your time this morning. Appreciate you continuing the fight for good in our state. And we'll talk again soon.
Always good to be with you, and thanks for filling in for Mike. Happy birthday to him. I can't say it in Japanese, but happy birthday to him. Yeah.
Sure thing. Senator Josh Kimbrell, making a difference in South Carolina. And again, call your state legislator and ask them, whichever state you live in, ask them if your state has passed this or if there's going to be an opportunity for you to vote on this come November. This is just one of the steps that we have to take. We all talk about election integrity. This is a way to assure election integrity. South Carolina Senator Josh Kimbrell. And again, make sure and call your state representative, your state senator, regardless of what state you may be listening in, and make sure that your state passes similar legislation so that we can be assured that non-citizens will not be voting in our elections. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Minneapolis residents urged their city to shut down neighborhood homeless encampments literally just a couple of weeks after being set up. I'll give you the details on that in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about that new vehicle that you're searching for. It's never been more important, in my opinion, to support locally run businesses. And Firmin Ford in Lawrence is one of those. If you're looking for a new vehicle, if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle that you can trust, look no further than Firmin Ford. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin, they do business the right way. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line. And that means that when you stop in, you give them a call, you send them an email, you always have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. They help you navigate through some of the great deals that they have. And they have a huge selection of new and used vehicles there. You know your money is staying right here in the upstate when you support Firmin Ford as well. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford in Lawrence. Find them online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Residents of a Minneapolis, Minnesota neighborhood have asked city leaders to shut down a recently installed homeless encampment following a series of concerning incidents, including an explosion. Philip West neighbors and Minneapolis police said that the homeless encampment was set up back in March. One resident who wanted to remain anonymous said, "We're scared out of our minds. I've had people on my porch at 2 a.m. and there's needles on the ground. There's broken glass everywhere, and we have a ton of kids that live on this block." The neighborhood also told the local news outlets, that residents had sent a letter to Mayor Jacob Fry, Minneapolis Police Department Chief Brian O'Hara, and the City Council asking them to take action immediately. Since the encampment was set up almost 2 weeks ago, there have allegedly been over a dozen calls to the location, including a drug overdose, a stabbing, and an explosion. Minneapolis City Council member Latricia Vitale told KSTP, it's got to be removed. We can't allow these to keep happening. And yes, we have a problem where we clear one out and one goes back in, but we got to keep doing this until we figure it out. The city of Minneapolis also released a statement regarding the homeless encampment, saying the city is working to close the encampment on 5th Avenue. Closure is likely to take place next week, with the city providing 1 week advance notice prior to the closure. Outreach workers continue working on connecting community members at the encampment with available service from Hennepin County. A separate large homeless encampment in Minneapolis was closed back in January after a U.S. judge declined to issue a temporary restraining order that would have barred the city from shutting it down. Also, Democrat-run city of Denver, Colorado, plans to defund its police department to help pay for illegal immigrants. Denver, which is commonly referred to as a sanctuary city, announced this week that it will spend $89.9 million on services for incoming illegal immigrants, pulling some of the funding from roughly $45 million in public programs and services. Denver's police department will be hit the hardest with an $8.4 million reduction. That's about 1.9% of its total operating budget. Denver became the top destination per capita for incoming illegals in 2023, having had more than 40,000 arrive during 2023 alone, putting the total illegal migrant population at roughly 710,000, according to NBC News. Denver had already spent over $42 million in 2023 in housing and medical services, and plans to spend over $100 million on similar costs in fiscal year 2024. The fire department will also suffer with a $2.5 million reduction, which is about 0.8 of its total operating costs. Half of those reductions will also come from vacant positions, they said. The city won't stop recruiting classes right now for new police officers or firefighters, but at least one class will have to be conducted at the Denver International Airport, which is paying for the cost of hosting it, according to local news media. Also, 911 operators will have to be paid differently in order to save the city money. At what point do you think these cities are going to reevaluate their sanctuary city status? At what point do you think they come to terms with this and just think, okay, we've got to say no. We've got to call Joe Biden and his administration and ask the president to close the border. We can't continue to take illegals into our area. According to the reports, one of the most severe cuts will come from Democrat Mayor Mike Johnson's office, which will lose about $335,000 in funding for the plan. That's about 9.6% of his operating budget. Johnson celebrated the new plan on Wednesday, claiming it was the best option available to provide services to illegal immigrants while also mitigating city budget cuts. Over 15,000 illegals have flooded into Denver since May of 2023. They, of course, blame it on Texas Governor Greg Abbott's busing effort. The Lone Star State sits at the epicenter of the illegal immigration, and Governor Abbott has been spreading the good cheer. He's been busing them to various cities all around the country, Denver being one of those. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639 on the Firmin Ford text line, and your comments are welcome as well. Susan writes, so Biden has said that he's going to cancel the interest on student loans. It's my understanding that even with the interest canceled, borrowers will still have to pay back the principal. Is Biden hoping they won't realize this until after they've voted for him? Well, that's true to a degree, Susan. In some cases, though, in some of these programs, it will be the entire balance that will be wiped out. Yes, the biggest part of the program is to eliminate the interest in which Joe Biden and some of the student loan borrowers think that they have been overcharged for interest. But in some programs, and particularly in the service sector, all of their total balance will be wiped out. Tony writes on the Firmin Ford text line, Joey, you talked about Mike Johnson and spying. Well, why did William Timmons sign a bill saying it's okay to spy on Americans by government officials? I'm assuming you're talking about the FISA renewal, Tony. Jennifer says, hey, Joey, it's Jennifer. Check the box on emailing my state representative, Jake Johnson, regarding the vote against allowing non-citizens to vote in North Carolina. Thank you, Jennifer. We do. Regardless of where you're listening and what state you live in, you got to step up and let your representative know that there's a way to prevent this from happening. There's a way to make sure that our election integrity remains intact. And that's making sure that it's illegal for non-citizens to vote. Again, you think that should be a given, but in most states it's not. But you can do something about it. Our text of encouragement today from Joel says, believe in yourself, and in yourself you'll find hope as well as spirit. Never give up and never stop dreaming. God bless. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-5639. To wrap things up today, an inspiring story of a 7-year-old's lemonade stand that has touched an entire community. You want to hear this one. First, let me talk with you about Discounted Appliance Warehouse. If you're looking to purchase new appliances, whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading your entire kitchen area to enhance the look and the feel of your home, when you're ready for those appliances, you don't want to have to wait weeks or months, do you? Well, you don't have to when you go to Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. You can walk through their 11,000 square foot warehouse, choose from about 1,500 appliances. In a lot of cases, you can buy it today, use it today. It's just that simple. And when you go to Discounted Appliance Warehouse, Jeff and Johnny and Kyle, they make you feel like part of the family. You're more than just a credit card swipe at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They're very proud of the fact that they offer the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor for up to 7 years. That's the Speed Queen, by the way. And again, they have an award-winning service department, installation, everything to take care of you. Discounted Appliance Warehouse is worth a short drive to Pickens and online at dawpickens.com. So here's the story. Emery Johnson's mom passed away suddenly last month. And as funeral expenses started to stack up, this 7-year-old from Alabama did the only thing she could think of. She opened a lemonade stand to raise money to pay for Carly Bordner's headstone. Per WAFF local media there, Emery sold cups of lemonade for $1 a cup. But thanks to a rallying community, she's raised over $10,000. Bordner's death, according to the report, it was a sudden thing. We didn't know what had happened, Bordner's mother, Jennifer Bordner, said of the March 13th passing of her 29-year-old daughter, who lived with her, had been trying to rebuild her life after a rough patch, her mom said. Jennifer Bordner notes that she, Carly, and Emery had watched a movie together in their Scottsboro home that night when she left, and that's the last time that they saw her alive. The youngster took the 4 lemons that they had in the house, set up her stand last week. She said, "I just want to be able to do something to help out with my mommy's stuff," she said. And she told me to take a picture of her and to put it on Facebook. So the grandmother did, and that picture spread. It went viral. It helped on Facebook, a local restaurant, and soon the entire town had converged on the stand to help Emery, according to ALO.com. So much of the community was there, police officers, a motorcycle group, judges, EMS workers, nurses, to show their support, according to the local media, noting that Emery had between 100 and 150 customers on the first day alone. AL.com reports that some customers brought donations from others who couldn't make it to the lemonade stand, while others went out and purchased supplies for Emery, as well as donated food and clothes to she and her grandmother. Jennifer Bordner tells AL.com that her granddaughter's thoughtfulness isn't unusual, noting that Emery has been known to put together baskets for new neighbors as well as for those who have had pets die. She said she wants everyone to be happy. In addition to the $10,000 that Emery has raised so far, multiple monument companies have offered to donate a headstone for Carly so that the money can be put towards other expenses instead. It feels like this is a gift from God, Jennifer Bordner told the local newspaper. It's overwhelming to me. I've never seen a community do this. God bless them. That's it for today's Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list, let me encourage you to please do so. Just go to joeyhudson.com, click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the latest news. Find me on YouTube. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, and keep your emails coming as well, joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again next week. Hope you'll plan to be with us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.